Captain Irel's ship shook violently as it spun out of control near the shattered moon of Jatara. Outside the small cockpit window, jagged pieces of rock and metal floated silently in space. Her heart pounded in her chest. She was a soldier of the Zentari Confederation, trained for war, but this was different. This time she was the one caught, not the hunter. Her last mission had been simple: sabotage a Terran listening post hidden in the debris field. The Terrans, humans as they called themselves, were a strange and unpredictable species. The stories her commanders told were full of fear and warnings. Humans were survivors, yes, but ruthless ones. They fought hard and showed little mercy. Now the metal of her ship was failing. The alarm screamed around her. Irel knew she had seconds left before the hull broke apart. With a last burst of strength, she triggered the escape pod and was ejected into the cold darkness. The blackness of space pressed around her. She floated, weightless and alone, her breathing steady despite the shock. The pod's automated beacon sent signals into the void. She waited, knowing help might come. But from whom? When the pod's doors opened, bright lights flooded her eyes. A firm grip held her gently but firmly. The voice that spoke was calm and steady. "You're safe now. Come with us." Irel blinked, confused. She expected harsh voices, demands, pain. Instead, she found herself in a small chamber aboard a large ship. The walls were clean and bright, and a soft hum filled the air. The man who held her was tall, with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple uniform marked with a blue emblem, a star encircled by rings. He introduced himself as Lieutenant Marcus Hale. "Where am I?" Irel asked, her voice rough. "You're on a Terran ship," Marcus said. "You were found drifting near the moon. We brought you in to help." Irel's mind raced. Her first instinct was to resist. This was enemy territory. She was a prisoner. But the gentle way Marcus treated her, the absence of weapons or harsh words, it was confusing. Her body ached. The pod landing must have bruised her ribs. Marcus handed her water and a small meal. "You need to regain your strength," he said. Irel looked at the food suspiciously but took it. Hunger was stronger than doubt. As the hours passed, she observed the humans aboard the ship. They moved with purpose but showed no signs of hostility towards her. There were engineers working on the damaged engines, medics checking supplies, and others who simply talked quietly. She remembered the stories told. By her people, and humans were fierce, unyielding, and cruel. But here, in this small world aboard the ship, they seemed different. Marcus returned with a small device. "This will help us communicate," he said, holding out a translator. Irel took it, her fingers brushing his. The device beeped, and then his words came out in her language, clear and slow. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Marcus smiled softly. "Because you're not just a prisoner to me. You're a person, and right now you need help." Irel's mind fought with her feelings. Could she trust this human? Was this kindness a trick? But deep inside, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, she was safe. The hours stretched into night. Irel sat by the small viewport watching distant stars. Marcus joined her quietly. "You know," he said, "we don't understand much about your people, but I believe we have more in common than we think." Irel looked at him, surprised by his calmness. "Our people say humans are monsters." He shook his head. "I think monsters are made by fear and hate, not by who we are." For the first time since her capture, Irel felt something new: hope. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. The engine room reported damage worse than expected. Marcus's voice came over the comm, tense but controlled. "We're drifting. Without repairs, we'll be stuck here for a long time." Irel stood quickly. "I can help." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" "I know the star charts here. I can guide you." He nodded. "Welcome aboard, Captain." As they prepared for the hard work ahead, Irel realized this was not the story she expected. Captured by a human, she had braced for pain. But instead she found something surprising: an ally. The hum of the Resolute Dawn's engines filled the ship as it drifted slowly through the debris field near Jatara's shattered moon. Captain Iril watched quietly, her mind still heavy, with doubt and questions. She sat alone in a small room, the walls glowing faintly with soft lights, her hands clenched tightly. She was a prisoner, or so she told herself. Yet the Terrans aboard the ship had shown no signs of cruelty. Instead, they offered food, warmth, and now, a chance to survive. But trust was not easy for Iril. Lieutenant Marcus Hale knocked gently on the door. "Captain, may I come in?" he asked. Iril gave a slight nod. Marcus entered with a calm smile. "We're making progress on the repairs," he said. "But it's slow going. We could use your help." Iril's eyes narrowed. "Why would you want my help? You have soldiers and engineers." Marcus shrugged. "Because you know this region better than any of us. You've studied these star charts your whole life." Iril looked away, still unsure. "I'm not here to help you. I'm a prisoner." Marcus shook his head softly. "I'm not your jailer, Captain. I'm here to keep you alive, because no one wins if we all die out here." Iril's pride fought against the truth in his words. She had been taught to see humans as enemies, cold and ruthless. But Marcus was different, patient, honest. She thought of her mission, how she had been caught because of a mistake, how her people would see her failure as weakness. Still, she stood up. "Show me the charts." Marcus led her to the ship's small control room. Screens displayed star maps and sensor readings. The Resolute Dawn had been drifting far off course after the crash. Iril pointed at the holographic map. "There. The debris field is denser there. But if you follow the smaller gaps between the rocks, you can reach the Stargate at Varix." Marcus studied the map carefully. "This could save us days." "Thank you." For a moment, the tension between them softened. Iril began to understand that Marcus was not like the monsters she had feared, but doubt remained. Later, as she walked through the ship's narrow corridors, Iril noticed the humans watching her with a mix of curiosity and caution. They whispered among themselves but kept their distance. She tried to slip away to find an escape pod. Her heart raced as she moved quietly toward the hangar bay. Suddenly, a hand caught her arm. It was Marcus. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Iril pulled back. "I need to see if I can get off this ship." Marcus looked into her eyes. "I won't stop you. But the pod systems are damaged. You won't get far." Iril's face tightened. She was trapped. Marcus sighed. "You're not my enemy, Captain. I want you safe. And I want us both to survive." Iril's breath caught. This was not what she expected. "Why?" she whispered. "Because sometimes enemies can become allies," Marcus said. She looked away, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. The days passed slowly. Iril helped Marcus and the crew repair the engines, using her knowledge of the star charts. Together they worked in the tight engine room, the air thick with sweat and determination. Marcus watched her carefully, always respectful, never rushing or pushing. One evening, as they sat beside the engine hum, Marcus pulled out a small data tablet. "I want to show you something." Iril raised an eyebrow but accepted it. On the screen were images, faces of people, families, children. Marcus's family. "My wife and daughter," he said softly, "lost during the wars." Iril felt a pang of sadness. Here was a man who had suffered, yet he still reached out with kindness. She touched the screen lightly. "I thought humans were cruel." Marcus smiled sadly. "We have pain, but we also have hope." That night, Iril lay awake, thinking about the man who had saved her. The line between enemy and friend was blurring. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. "Centauri patrol ship detected," a voice announced over the comm. Marcus's face grew serious. "They're coming to capture us, or destroy us." Iril's heart pounded. The rescue she had hoped for might be her doom. "We have to prepare," Marcus said, "and I need your help." Iril nodded without hesitation. Together they began planning, not as prisoner and captor, but as two beings fighting for the same chance to live. For the first time, Iril understood the strange truth about humans. They were fierce, yes, but also brave and loyal. As the resolute dawn drifted toward danger, a fragile trust had formed, and that trust might be their greatest weapon. The resolute dawn floated slowly through the vast emptiness of space. Its engines hummed softly, still weak but slowly growing stronger. Captain Iril stood at the ship's observation window, staring out at the stars. The cold silence of space felt less lonely now, but her mind was restless. Lieutenant Marcus Hale approached quietly. "You're thinking about your people, aren't you?" he asked. Iril nodded. "I wonder if they will come for me, or if they will consider me a traitor." Marcus looked out beside her. "You're not a traitor. You're just trying to survive. That's what any of us would do." Iril sighed. She thought about everything that had happened since her capture. The kindness of these humans, their patience and courage. It was all so different from what she had believed. "Tell me about your people," she said suddenly. "Why do humans fight so much?" Marcus smiled softly. "We have fought, yes, but not because we want to. We fight because sometimes it's the only way to protect those we love. But we also know how to come together. War taught us that. It made us strong, but it also taught us the value of peace." Iril listened carefully. The stories Marcus told were not of endless battles, but of families, friendships, and hope. She felt a strange connection forming, something she had never expected. In return, she shared stories of the Zentari, their traditions, their love for the stars, and their fears. "Your people seem very different from mine," she said. "We have been enemies for so long that I forgot there could be other ways." Marcus nodded. "It's easier to hate what you don't understand." As they talked, the ship's sensors picked up an unexpected signal. Marcus's face grew serious. "Zentari communications," he said. "They're sending a message nearby." Iril moved to the console, her fingers flying over the controls. The signal was coded and fast, but her knowledge of Zentari codes helped to unlock it. The message was clear, a warning for the Terran ship. "Destroy the human vessel. No survivors." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They want us gone." Iril frowned. "Why?" "I did not warn them." Marcus shook his head. "They don't know that. They see you as a prisoner. If they find you here, they will think we kidnapped you." A heavy silence fell between them. "I cannot let them harm you," Iril said firmly. "But I cannot betray my people either." Marcus studied her face. "What if we don't have to betray anyone? What if we find a way to change this?" Iril looked at him with hope and fear mixed together. For the next few hours they worked together, preparing the ship for what might come. Marcus taught Iril how to use some Terran technology, and she taught him how to navigate the dangerous debris field. They shared meals in the small galley, laughed at strange human jokes, and even began to understand each other's ways. One evening, as the stars twinkled beyond the viewport, Iril spoke softly. "You saved my life, Marcus. I thought humans only knew pain and war, but you showed me kindness." Marcus smiled. "We all have the choice to be better." Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared again. "Hostile vessel approaching," the comm announced. Iril and Marcus rushed to the control room. The view screen showed a sleek Zentari patrol ship closing fast. Marcus turned to Iril. "We have to work together to get out of this." Iril nodded, determination in her eyes. The chase was on. As the resolute Dawn maneuvered through the dangerous field, Marcus's quick thinking and Iril's knowledge of the area helped them avoid collisions. They used every skill they had learned to stay ahead. At one point, the patrol ship fired warning shots trying to scare them away, but Marcus remained calm. "We won't run," he said. Iril felt her fear melt into trust. They were no longer enemies fighting each other. They were partners fighting to survive. Finally, after tense moments, the Zentari ship gave up the chase and turned away. Errol let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Marcus smiled. "We made it." She looked at him, a new respect shining in her eyes. "Perhaps there is more hope for peace than I thought." As the stars glimmered outside, two very different beings sat side by side, not as prisoner and captor, but as allies facing the unknown future together. The resolute Dawn floated quietly near the edge of the asteroid field. The damaged engines hummed softly, and the ship's systems flickered between normal and emergency power. Captain Errol stood by the main window, her mind heavy with thoughts. Lieutenant Marcus Hale approached her slowly. "We've scanned the area. The Zentari patrol will return soon. We don't have much time." Errol nodded. "Then we must decide what to do. If I warn my people, they will come here and destroy this ship. You might not survive." Marcus met her eyes, calm but serious. "And if you don't warn them?" She looked away, struggling with the weight of her loyalty. Her people trained her to believe that humans were enemies, dangerous and untrustworthy. But Marcus had shown her kindness and hope. "Leaving you here is not an option," she said quietly. Marcus smiled softly. "I don't expect you to leave me. I want you to stay, but the choice is yours." Iril took a deep breath. The silence stretched between them, full of unspoken fears and hopes. Finally, she spoke. "If I warn my people, it will mean the destruction of this ship and likely your death." Marcus's face grew serious. "And if you don't warn them, it means betraying my people. A heavy price." He stepped closer. "What if there is another way?" Iril looked at him, curiosity and hope mixing in her eyes. Marcus continued. "There is a signal beacon nearby. It sends messages across space. If we disable it, no one can find us. But that would make me a traitor," she said, her voice shaking. "Sometimes, to protect what is right, we must risk being seen as a traitor," Marcus said gently. "You are not alone in this." Errol thought of all they had been through, the trust, the teamwork, the moments of kindness. Her loyalty to her people was strong, but so was her new bond with Marcus. That night she could not sleep. The stars outside seemed to watch silently as she made her choice. The next morning she found Marcus in the engine room. "I will disable the beacon," she said firmly, "but I need your help." Marcus nodded. "We do this together." Working side by side, they made their way to the signal beacon station, hidden in an old satellite. The small craft they piloted moved carefully through the debris field. Eril's hands trembled as she prepared to shut down the beacon. This was a decision that could change everything. Marcus placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You are brave." She smiled faintly. "So are you." With a deep breath, Eril deactivated the beacon. The lights on the console dimmed, and silence filled the room. Suddenly, the communications panel beeped. A message flashed on the screen. A warning from her. People searching for her. Eril's heart pounded, but she knew she had made the right choice. Returning to the resolute Dawn, they found the ship's crew waiting anxiously. "We did it," Marcus said. "No one can find us now." Eril looked at the faces around her, humans who had become her friends. For the first time, she felt she belonged. Days passed with tense quiet. The danger of the patrol ship loomed, but the disabled beacon kept them hidden. One evening, Marcus and Iril sat together, watching distant stars. "Thank you for trusting me," Marcus said softly. Iril nodded. "You showed me that not all humans are enemies. That kindness can change even the hardest hearts." He smiled. "And you showed me that trust is the first step to peace." As the stars twinkled, two very different souls shared a moment of hope, a hope that would guide them through the challenges ahead. The resolute Dawn moved cautiously through the rocky maze of the asteroid field. Its engines were stronger now, thanks to the combined efforts of Captain Irel and Lieutenant Marcus Hale. The silence of space was thick with tension. Every crew member was alert, knowing the danger was still close. Irel stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the view screen. The stars outside twinkled coldly, but something darker approached. Marcus joined her, his expression serious. Sensors picked up a Zentari patrol ship, they're closing fast. Irel's heart quickened. They must have found traces of us. Marcus nodded. They don't know we disabled the beacon, but they are searching. The patrol ship appeared on the screen, sleek, fast, and armed. Its intentions were clear: capture or destroy. Marcus turned to the crew. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We need to use every advantage we have. Irel stepped forward. I know this field better than anyone. I'll guide us through the tightest spaces. The ship shook as the patrol opened fire, sending harmless, warning shots that lit up the darkness. The resolute Dawn responded quickly, weaving between floating rocks and debris. Inside the control room, tension was high. Engineers monitored systems, ready to fix any damage. Medics stood by for any injuries. Marcus glanced at Irel. You ready? She nodded, gripping the console. Let's show them what we can do. The chase was fierce. The patrol ship pushed its engines to the limit, but Irel's knowledge of the asteroid field gave the resolute Dawn an edge. She called out directions, guiding Marcus as he piloted with steady hands. Left now. Narrow gap ahead, she warned. Marcus adjusted the controls and the ship slipped through a tight passage. The patrol ship struggled to follow, scraping against rocks and losing speed. Suddenly, a large asteroid shifted, blocking their path. Marcus cursed softly. Hold on. Irel braced herself as the ship slowed. The patrol ship closed in quickly, but then Irel had an idea. Activate the gravity pulse, she ordered. Marcus looked surprised. Are you sure? Trust me. The crew prepared the ship's gravity pulse system, a tool designed to create a temporary field that could push objects away. With a deep breath, Marcus triggered the pulse. A wave of energy radiated outward, pushing the nearby asteroids and the patrol ship away. The enemy vessel stumbled, giving the resolute Dawn a precious moment to escape. Cheers broke out among the crew. Marcus smiled at Irel. That was brilliant. Irel felt a spark of pride. We're not just running, we're fighting back. But the chase was not over. The patrol ship quickly recovered and followed them deeper into the field. Suddenly, Marcus grunted in pain, clutching his side. Irel rushed to him. What is it? I think I hit something during the maneuver, he said, wincing. Without hesitation, Irel took the pilot's seat. Let me help. Marcus nodded, trusting her completely. With careful hands, Irel guided the ship through the twisting rocks. The patrol ship closed in, firing shots that rattled the hull. The tension was unbearable. Finally, after what felt like hours, the patrol ship slowed and turned away, unable to keep up. Irel let out a long breath. We made it. Marcus leaned back, exhausted but smiling. Thanks to you. The crew gathered, their faces filled with relief and gratitude. Later, as the ship's lights dimmed for rest, Marcus and Irel sat together in the small common room. You saved us all, Marcus said quietly. Irel shook her head. We saved each other. A deep silence fell between them, filled with unspoken respect and growing friendship. The stars outside continued to shine, silent witnesses to a bond that crossed worlds. In that moment, two souls, one human, one Zentari, knew they were stronger, together. The resolute Dawn finally reached the neutral station orbiting the great gas giant Varex. The space station was a hub for many species, traders, diplomats, and travelers, all hoping to avoid the wars that raged beyond. For Captain Irel and Lieutenant Marcus Hale, it was a chance to find safety, but also a new challenge. As the ship docked, the crew prepared for what might come next. The news of a Zentari officer and a human working together spread quickly through the station. Whispers followed them through the corridors, some curious, some suspicious. Errol felt the weight of many eyes on her as she walked beside Marcus through the busy terminal. Traders of different species eyed her carefully while soldiers from various factions exchanged guarded glances. "This won't be easy," Marcus said quietly. "Many here don't trust either of us." Errol nodded. "But it is a chance." They were soon led to a large conference hall, where neutral delegates from several species awaited. The room was filled with officials, spies, and diplomats, all eager to hear their story. Standing before them, Errol took a deep breath. "I am Captain Errol of the Zentari Confederation. This is Lieutenant Marcus Hale of the Terran Alliance. We come not as enemies, but as allies." She spoke of their journey, the crash, the trust they built, the battle to survive. Marcus added his story of loss, hope, and the belief that peace was possible. Some in the audience looked skeptical. Others whispered excitedly. A stern delegate from a neighboring system asked, "How can we trust this alliance? Is it not betrayal to your people?" Errol answered calmly, "Sometimes to build peace, we must risk being called traitors. But I believe that trust and kindness are stronger than fear." Marcus nodded. "We face dangers together, and that makes us stronger." As their words settled in, a sudden alarm echoed through the station. Security teams rushed toward the entrance. Shadowy figure attempted to enter the hall but was stopped by guards. The delegates exchanged tense looks. Marcus and Errol exchanged a glance. The threat was clear. Not everyone wanted peace. Later, in a quiet room, Marcus said, "That was an attempt to silence us." Errol's eyes narrowed. But it failed. Their bond had become a symbol, a hope for some, a threat to others. The next days were filled with meetings, negotiations, and cautious talks. Errol and Marcus worked together, answering questions and building trust. They shared stories of cooperation and friendship that grew despite differences. Slowly, a new hope blossomed among the delegates. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed, Marcus and Errol stood by a large window, watching the swirling storms of gas giant Varex below. "You changed everything," Marcus said softly. Errol smiled. "So did you." Their journey was far from over, but together they had started something new, a path toward peace, built on courage and trust. As stars twinkled above, two unlikely allies stood united, ready to face whatever came next. Years had passed since the resolute Dawn had escaped the dangers of the shattered moon Jitara. The galaxy had changed in small but meaningful ways, and so had Captain Errol and Lieutenant Marcus Hale. Now they stood side by side inside the grand halls of the new Earth Centauri Joint Embassy. The building was a symbol of hope and cooperation, a place where two very different peoples worked together for peace. Errol looked around at the crowd gathered to celebrate the signing of a historic peace treaty. Humans and Zentari stood together talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Children from both species played nearby, their laughter filling the halls. Marcus stood quietly next to Errol, his eyes warm and proud. "Look at this," he said softly. "A future we never thought possible." Errol nodded. It started with trust, a simple choice to believe in each other. Their journey had not been easy. They had faced fear, doubt, and danger. But their courage had inspired others to try. Errol had become the first Zentari ambassador to Earth, a position of honor and great responsibility. Marcus was her trusted advisor and friend. Together they traveled the stars, speaking of unity and understanding. One afternoon, as they walked through the embassy's gardens, Errol reflected on how far they had come. "Do you remember?" she said with a smile. "When I was captured and I thought I would face only pain?" Marcus laughed. "I remember. You were ready for the worst. But instead," she said softly, "I found kindness. And that changed everything." Marcus took her hand gently. "Because you chose to trust, not fear." Errol squeezed his hand. "We made something stronger than war." Their story had become a legend across many worlds. The story of a human and a Zentari who refused to hate, who chose hope instead. As they watched the sun set beyond the embassy windows, Iril spoke quietly. There is still much work to do, but together we will face it. Marcus smiled. Always. The stars outside shone brightly, lighting the path ahead. A path not of conflict, but of peace. And in that light, two very different souls stood united, ready to build a better future for their people and for all who dreamed of a galaxy where kindness was stronger than fear.